Something very strange is happening in Washington regarding Iran. Donald Trump urgently convened the national security team at the White House to make a final decision on Iran. Now everyone is holding their breath, waiting to see what decision he will announce to the world. The thing is, before convening this meeting, Trump announced that by Friday evening he would announce his final decision on the war against Iran. But now it's already Saturday evening, and Trump has suddenly gone silent. There have been no public statements. At the same time, it became known that Iran and the United States have reportedly reached a preliminary agreement to extend the ceasefire for another 60 days for substantive negotiations. In fact, officials in Washington have already started publicly announcing the signing of a peace memorandum with Iran. However, on Friday, Trump unexpectedly put forward a number of demands concerning the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait, the Iranian nuclear program, and the unfreezing of Iranian assets held abroad. But in Tehran, such a deal was completely rejected, and they demanded cash from the Americans. They said that until this money is in Tehran, you will not see any peace. And today, America's War Minister Pete Hegseth stated that the US is ready to launch new strikes if Iran does not agree to all of Donald Trump's demands. Meanwhile, Donald Trump himself continues to remain silent for some reason. My name is Alexei Pichi, and let's discuss this topic together. But before we begin, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, like this episode, leave any comment under the video, and subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pichi News. The link to it is in the description of this video. So, right now, all the experts are holding their breath because Donald Trump has suddenly gone silent and retreated into the background on the war against Iran. US President Donald Trump previously stated that on Friday he would gather his advisors at the White House to make a final decision on a peace agreement with Iran. The White House even announced that representatives from Washington and Tehran had reached a final agreement on Thursday regarding the terms for extending the truce and reopening shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. In short, the memorandum between the US and Iran implies a ceasefire and the opening of the Strait of Hormuz for 60 days, during which both sides will negotiate a nuclear deal. Iran must clear the mines in the Strait of Hormuz within 30 days. The US will have to lift the naval blockade. Iran allegedly promises not to develop nuclear weapons, and the US may lift some sanctions to allow Iran to sell oil and unfreeze the first half of its assets, namely $12 billion. But suddenly, after all this, Trump rolled out new conditions. Iran's agreement not to develop nuclear weapons, demining and opening the Strait of Hormuz, as well as the removal and destruction of the Islamic Republic's existing stockpiles of highly enriched uranium. That is, Iran must commit to doing this even before signing not just a deal but even a memorandum, but Trump acted this way apparently for a reason, and we'll get to that. In response, Iran basically told Donald Trump to get lost. The representative of Iran's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Esmail Baghaei, stated that Tehran will not follow the orders of Donald Trump, who said that Iran must agree to all the conditions of the United States. Next is a quote from Baghaei. "We said goodbye to the language of ultimatums 47 years ago. None of the Western countries can speak to the Islamic Republic of Iran in the language of ultimatums. We make our own decisions based on the interests and rights of the Iranian people." Baghaei also commented on the future of shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, stating that this strategic waterway passes through the territorial waters of Iran and Oman and requires special agreements. Here is another quote from him. "Iran and Oman, as two responsible countries, must create mechanisms that will simultaneously protect their national interests and rights as coastal states, and will assure the international community that navigation through this area is safe. Responsible countries must create mechanisms that will simultaneously protect their interests." This is diplomatic language. If we put it simply, the strategic position of Iran and Oman requires special agreements. Quote, "To protect the Hormuz Strait, Baghaei commented on the future of navigation, stating that it is a strategic artery. Baghaei commented on the future. Then in Tehran, they were completely shocked. Iran stated that the draft agreement is not binding at all for now. It does not obligate them to anything. As reported by Fars, a publication very close to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, not a single provision of the draft obligates Iran, for example, to open the Hormuz Strait without introducing fees and duties. In addition, it is stated that the memorandum does not mention anything about Iran being required to destroy its nuclear materials. And most importantly, Tehran has stated that they will only negotiate after the United States of America unfreezes $12 billion of Iran's frozen assets. Tehran will not move on to the next stages of negotiations until this money is in Iran. This is already a direct ultimatum, and the Iranians say that $12 billion is the price for them to even sign a memorandum. I think you noticed that the last statement from Donald Trump about Iran was made on Friday, even before the National Security Team meeting. Trump promised to give some kind of decision by Friday evening. It's already Saturday evening today, and there's still no decision. And only a day later, the White House announced that after a meeting in the Situation Room, Trump did not make a decision about signing a peace agreement with Iran and is taking a couple more days to think it over. As it became known, the meeting at the White House on the Iranian issue lasted several hours. The participants discussed a new proposal from Tehran regarding the conditions for ending the war in the Middle East. So they were discussing that ultimatum from Iran about the $12 billion. As a result of the meeting, Trump decided, quote, to postpone the final decision on Iran's proposal. So once again, the White House was not discussing what they were imposing, but what Tehran was offering them. Although Donald Trump previously stated that most of the points on the deal with Iran had already been agreed upon by the parties. He did not specify which particular issues Washington and Tehran managed to agree on, but let me remind you that in previous episodes on my Telegram channel, I actually warned and cautioned that when Trump says that a deal, some kind of peace deal, is 90 or 95% ready, it's a sign of failed negotiations. It's a sign that the talks are heading for a complete dead end. And it's obvious that Trump is now at a dead end. Let me remind you, in December 2025, Trump and his team said that a peace agreement to end Russia's war against Ukraine was 95% ready. Almost half a year has passed. Actually, it's already been half a year, and nothing has changed. The negotiations have completely stopped. At the beginning of this week, Trump's team announced that a peace agreement with Iran was 95% ready. And now, for some reason, Trump has been completely silent for the past 24 hours. And while Trump is not commenting on why the peace agreement with Iran could not be reached, the U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said that things are interesting right now. Any agreement will be beneficial. Once again, Pete Hegseth says it directly. Any agreement with Iran, absolutely any, is already a victory. At the same time, he emphasized that the president is not rushing with decisions, since he wants to make sure that any peace agreement with Iran will not allow Iran to obtain nuclear weapons. And now I'll quote Pete Hegseth further. This morning I spoke with Donald Trump. He asked me to emphasize that he is approaching this issue very patiently, since America is involved in a truly historic process. He wants any deal to be good and truly beneficial, and that's why he is acting patiently. If Iran does not agree to a beneficial deal that will guarantee the country does not have nuclear weapons, then Tehran will have to deal with the American military. Do you know what's funny about this situation? When the journalist asked Pete Hegseth, "Listen, what do you mean when you say that any deal will be good?" Pete Hegseth started to get nervous, and he stated that, quote, "I like insincere questions from insincere journalists." Well, like it's the journalist who's somehow the problem and not that he himself said some utter nonsense. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. Also, if you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation using the links and details in the description of this video or using the QR code on your screens. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Bye, everyone.